What's going on, guys? Rock Lee AC here, finally able to bring you guys a video. I know it's been a while. It's been a crazy 2 months, and time just flew by fast, and before you know it, I realized I haven't put up a video for a while, except for that last box opening. So thank you all for your patience and understanding coming from my transition into my uploads, I guess you should say. Just wanted to give a quick recap of what's been happening, I guess, in my life real quick, and before I do my Gencon update and everything. But yeah, I graduated back in May. I was able to get an internship, and I got offered a job after the internship. So I've been transitioning from my 8-year retail experience job to this new job. So that's a big change in my life. Definitely an uplifting experience. But it was a lot of work to do just from transitioning from my older job to this one. I had a graduation party which prevented me from attending the Chicago Regional, my local regional, which sucks because I was the only one that I attended to last year, and I kind of want to redeem myself from how bad I did last year. But I guess I did so in a way this year. But yeah, I haven't been able to test until, I guess, a month and a half. After the set was released, I knew I wanted to build a cooler deck. I jumped straight on Popos, and I offered as much as I could. But I didn't want to bite the $25 to $35 to even $50 foil cards for his name cards. So it took a while to build up, but you know, I knew I wanted to play him because of his name cards and his rejuvenation effect. So as soon as that was released, after the release events, I jumped on testing Cooler, and you know, it seemed like he was still missing something. I tried him in blue, red, and black, which are the main decks that I felt like he performed really well in. But I guess I just need a lot more testing because it just came out. So I guess a week or so, or 2 weeks after the release, I wanted to go with black. Black being one of the most powerful styles in the game, as we know through retro discussions. They have everything. You know, this is nothing new that's been happening in the past multiple sets. You know, black defensive burst, shutting down all the aggro decks, Saiyan decks, you know, all the banishing, all the picking at your decks. So I felt Cooler was a good complement with that, being able to rejuvenate. And the idea with Cooler that I wanted to go with was Devious, Mastery, and the ability to MPPV, either as a primary or a secondary condition. What I liked about Cooler was his ability to rejuvenate cards and healing yourself, healing back all those anger cards, black commands, which is obviously not as broken according to Gencon results, but it's still, I think, detrimental to the game, just that passive anger. You know, without, I think, blue being such a big impact in Gencon, you know, I think black would have maybe seen more tops in top 16, but I think blue was a good counter to all those decks and anger decks and whatnot. But yeah, I wanted to go with Devious Cooler. I thought it was very disruptive. You know, his Supernova in the discard pile complements well with all the destroying effects on board. You know, banishing, scouting maneuver all their board presence or whatever that they have to. You know, like their VTPs and whatnot. So I thought it worked really well. I tested that pretty hard for about a month. That was like the main deck that I think I was going to go with for the next regional. I didn't go to Philly or anything like that, but if I did, I might have ran with Black Cooler. So I tested that for a little bit, but I still felt like it was missing a little bit of something. You know, I was able to win a lot of my games. I didn't have too many losses with it, and most of my losses were pretty close. So wanted to go with Black Cooler. But then also I had the tinkering of Red and Rage Cooler, just because his ability to naturally level up quick with his name cards and his level 2 potential to gain anger and such. And since Red burns a lot of cards, it really works well with his rejuvenation effect, you know, healing back all those anger cards, or even healing back all those blocks and everything. So I tested that out for 2 weeks as well, and felt like Red was really, really good. It was performing amazing, especially after the results of the end of Season 5 with Lee taking, you know, Red Piccolo, just angering up. That's something that I wanted to take with Cooler, not the Dragon Ball version, but more so like the Burst Anger version. So I wanted to see how that fit with him, and I think it tested really well. It had a lot of crits, you know, board presence, stealing back Dragon Balls. That was something that I wanted to take advantage of. I guess it wasn't until a couple weeks before Gencon, you know, just me and David Meckler, who's one of the local players of ours. Been talking to him a lot lately. Actually, I give him a lot of credit to for him encouraging me to build this deck and take this deck and a lot of the card choices in here. But studying the results of the last regionals, you know, everybody's bursting up to like 3 or 4. You know, 13, Brawly, Cooler once in a while. A lot of the great decks want to jump up, you know, to the highest levels. And I'm just like, man, there's not a lot of blue in the field right now, or at least they're not performing as well as I thought they would. And, you know, I figured it'd be like the perfect counter, but I didn't know exactly what I wanted to run. So he mentioned blue Protective Yamcha with his ability to block an extra, you know, attack on level 1 and still be able to get out of combat, those bad combats with his name cards and such. So I thought that was a good idea, but I still wanted to run Cooler. Being a huge Frieza fan, you guys know me. If you guys seen my YouTube, or you guys been following me since the past year, so I've been building Frieza. He's my favorite MP, and I'm really happy that they made, you know, something like family related that I could say like, oh, he's Frieza's relative, brother, and all that stuff, and he could just you know, represent well for the Frieza family. You know, maybe King Cold will come out, who knows. But yeah, I was really excited to jump on the Cooler train because he's just so cool, and I didn't choose the blue Protective Cooler until literally the day before Gen Con. When we arrived there, we arrived with a couple people, me, Jonathan, Apple, and we took a guy from Ohio into our hotel. We didn't do anything illegal. We were totally fine. We're totally cool. But, you know, we had a lot of playtesting. Arrived there Thursday. Missed the sealed event, but it's okay. That happens. It gave us time to play test, and that's when it kind of hit me. You know, we saw David down there too as well. He traveled with a couple other people. I was like, man, I'm not sure if I want to run black or red. I'm still debating. And he suggested to me, he's like, you know, I really think you should run blue Protective Cooler. One being that blue's been my style since the very beginning, which is right. You know, I've been running blue Protective Frieza. I've done 2 deck profiles on Protective Frieza, you know, Beats and MPPV, and even Red Enraged Frieza. And he said that, you know, you're more likely to make less mistakes and miss less triggers by playing Blue Mastery, since I've been playing it for so long. And I was like, yeah, you're right. And a lot of the things that he did, you know, discuss with me is the stuff that's been in the back of my head, which is, you know, blue's ability to control anger and de-level people. And that's something that, you know, a couple weeks back we also discussed during Blue Yamcha, is that, you know, people are always bursting up to level 3, bursting up to level 4, and you need to be able to keep them on their lower levels. So, like, you know, Android 13's level 3 is just, beyond nuts. I mean, it's kind of busted. Not broken, but it's really good. You know, being able to lose stages, and if you're stage lock, you're just going to be milling, which is really brutal. So keeping him on his level 1 really hurts him in a way. And also Brawly, being able to keep him in the lower levels, and also me not running so much board, you know, keeping him on level 2 or level 1 isn't, you know, that big of a deal. So I was really convinced, because, you know, we already had like a template for Blue Yamcha built already. You know, 3 head knocks, 3 neck beams, takedowns, and decapitation. Because that card's so good. It's probably one of the more MVP cards of the deck. But yeah, we really had that built down, and it kind of, I guess, worked well with Cooler, just because of his ability to survive. And again, that's one of the best abilities, I think, in this game, is to be able to put cards in your deck, reuse them, and even his name cards really work well with the entering effects. You know, being able to rejuvenate Supernova to kill off like a VTP or a Red Relaxation, or, you know, black power up so you could go aggro is super important. So a big credit to David Meckler. I probably wouldn't have run this deck without his push for it, and I was just like, you know, I'm not a black player or even a red player. Blue's been my go-to style, so I was just like, you know what, I'm gonna run blue. Forget it. I didn't bring my blue cards because they were stuck at home, and I really convinced myself that I was gonna run black or red. But, you know, day before Gen Con, who knows? A lot of people do that. They switch last minute, and I guess this one worked out in my favor. So I put together blue Frieza, tested Friday night. We were up drinking a little bit, but not much. We were up till like about 4 a.m. and I was still tinkering with the deck. You know, I took out a lot of cards that he suggested that I think fit my style, and one of the key cards that I think was, you know, blue doesn't have a good ability to crit. That's kind of a given. We haven't been given too many crit cards, so I had to tech in some cards in here like Sinister Choke that would guarantee me to protect against Dragon Balls, because that's one of the deck's weaknesses. It's just, you know, against the Dragon Ball deck, you're more than likely to lose unless you're like very aggro. And I wanted to make this deck a little bit more aggressive than passive, so I built it where it's, you don't rely on allies, so you don't have to worry about earning you know, too many dead cards if somebody draws on you, and even like those ally search cards, you know, 3 overpowering, 3 blue slash and whatnot, and maybe a couple other cards here and there. So I didn't go that engine. I ran the blue dominance version, where you just stick on level 2 and you know, use the other drills to your advantage. And there are a lot of times where I've been knocked down to 1 pretty much almost every game. There are times where I got the dominance back and I was able to go back up, or I was able to anger up, or you'd stay at level 1 half the game. And his level 1's not that bad. You could definitely survive with his high power levels and even his power in general, but it was an uphill battle for a lot of the games. But I think it worked well because of how aggressive this build was. You know, you're entering most of the time, especially want to take advantage of you know, the heavier decks like the orange matchups or the Roshi matchups that draw into a lot of deck cards early. So I would almost always enter majority of the time. And what I like about this deck is that it could be very aggro and very defensive. You know, that's what blue is. With its mastery, you have multiple blocks and anger manipulation and so many endurance. So I thought it worked well with the cooler. You know, I think I have about 40 endurance or so, a little bit less than that, and you're still healing yourself. I think there was only 1 game where I lost by deck out. But other than that, I had plenty of cards left against the people that I've went up against. So it was a good day. I ended up finishing 31st. I went 5-2-1. My losses were to Jamal Jupiter, who got 2nd place, and Frisco Foz, who got 4th place. And my notable wins was against Sandeep and Mitchell, both who got invites from Fargo Regional. So I was very proud of my accomplishments. For a lot of you guys, I haven't been to any regionals. This is my 2nd OP event since I started the game. First one being Chicago, and then this one being Gencon. So super excited to finish it strong. I didn't top, but I'm very proud of my performance, and you know, I wouldn't have done it without the training of my locals at Extreme Games and down in Wisconsin as well. So yeah, you guys know I make long videos. I tried my best, but a lot of you guys were curious about my build and how it did it and whatnot. And I'll give you guys a lowdown on what I ran and all the suggestions and everything. So yeah, blue protective, 5th print mastery. A lot of you guys know I ordered that off of Panini. It's pre-order, so you guys gotta order ahead of time. $15, not bad. I'm just kidding. I use that line a lot, and a lot of people caught on and whatnot. But blue protect mastery, you got cooler level 1. Players cannot use setups for the first time in combat. That's also very good because they can't black power up. What's nice is his power. You could discard an energy combat card to draw a card. If you do, your opponent mills 1, destroys 1, and then you rejuvenate that card that you destroyed. So what's nice is that if you have a dead card, if you're going against like a physical heavy deck, or if you're stage locked, you know, you could pitch your energy cost and then hopefully draw into like another block, or hopefully draw into like another physical attack where you can just be aggro. Busted combo is blue guard. You banish, so you discard blue guard, you banish blue guard to draw a card, and then you banish, or you don't banish, you draw a card for technically discarding it. You don't get the other effects though because you technically didn't fulfill those requirements, but you get 2 cards. That's how you get hand advantage if you're stuck on level 1 is blue guard. So like I said, it's not the end of the day if you're stuck on level 1, you still have some outs and whatnot. Level 2 is really where you want to be at. I think his 2 is amazing. After taking damage from an attack that's not prevented, you could raise your anger 1. So it's a nice little way to kind of bump up yourself. I think there's only 1 or 2 games where I went up to level 3, but most of the times I stayed on level 2. So it's a physical attack. rejuvenate 2, and you deal 5 life cards. And hit, you may discard a card from your hand to draw. So there are a lot of times where you could discard a blue guard, you could discard a non-combat card, something that you can't use, and then recycle your hand. So I like those level 2, very flexible. You know, you could gain an anger, you can rejuvenate 2, and you could potentially cycle out a bad card. Level 3 is also great. It's energy attack, which I didn't want to boost myself up to level 3 because of the physical meta, and I wasn't running allies, so I couldn't find ways to like really soak up damage, and blue doesn't have a lot of ways to gain stages, so I didn't want to pressure myself up to level 3, but it was possible if I saw like towards the end of the game where I'm able to kind of push for more damage. Jumping from level 2 to 3 in one combat is huge. Is a huge swing. You're healing yourself 2, and then you're healing yourself another 3. So it's energy attack, costing 2, rejuvenate 3, and then after taking damage, you rejuvenate 1, which is nice. So you're going to be healing bad cards. And level 4, you always never get to. It was very common to get to level 4 during the devious and red matchups, but this never really happened. But it's amazing effect too. You know, you're healing yourself 8 cards, go back down. Oh yeah, I forgot. Once you reach level 3, you get to rejuvenate a card from Banish Zone. So you can rejuvenate your decapitations, your blue guards, whatever you need. So that's cooler. Let's just run through the deck and everything too, so you guys get a good idea. For non-combats, for setups, I ran 3 blue dominance. It's your only sure way to kind of level up. I run a drill package of about 5 drills, so even if you're on level 2, you could still pop dominance, get those other 2 drills. This is no stranger to my other decks out there with blue Frieza, dominance to 2 to golden Frieza, so there's that. Instant transmission, which Dave told me to tech in, which did work in 3 games. First game was against, first time I used this I think was against Jamal, when I entered on him and stole his red relaxation, so he wouldn't be able to get a crit and that extra card in his discard pile. So I was able to use that card, and then against I think Sundeep also, I think I stole a Slumber or something like that. I can't remember, but there were 2 times. It was an okay card, very fun, very aggro. I'm not sure if I'd run it in future events or if I'll be able to attend future events, but it was one of those fun cards that's like, hey, it's a nice tech for certain threats on the board. Drill package, I went with 1 biting drill and 1 lifting drill. The combination of mill off 1 to lower the anger is great. Doing stage damage pressure is also really well, just to knock your opponent down, and then that extra life card of damage, and also when they stop, they lower their anger. So it's great. Lifting drill is great against the anger decks when they're trying to push up. So it's a nice damage buff. I also ran mental drill. Mental drill was so good, being able to kind of pick at your opponent's deck and know what cards, what to expect. 1 positioning drill. Sadly, positioning drill kind of underperformed for me. Maybe it's because I was just more aggressive. This is something that I just wanted to put in just in case, heal myself. But who knows? It's a different kind of build. But I might take this out for a second card, which I'll show you right now, which is blue overwhelming drill. Blue overpowering drill. This drill was amazing. This in combination with blue decapitation being your first copy. So this reads, villains, this card is not discarded when you advance a level, which is great. Whenever you stop an attack, you may raise a player's anger level 1, so that's good. You can level yourself up. But also, your first copy attack each combat cannot be stopped. And blue decapitation, as you'll see in a bit, copies an opponent's attack. So being able to copy blue slash or a lot of the good hit effects like head knocks, or not hit effects, but just cards in general, physical cards like head knocks and whatnot is really good. But the main combo is decapitation, so that can't be stopped. And this I would probably definitely bump up to 2 and maybe tech in more like copy cards and stuff. So that card really performed well. Events, I ran 3 blue shifting maneuver. Anomaly block is definitely great. 2 endurance also. And sometimes you do find yourself at 3 anger, so it's discarded, you could rejuvenate it later on, but it was a nice card. I think I got sphered from it once, which sucked, but it's all good. And then I ran 2 stare downs and 1 sphere. This is okay. I like the stare down. Being able to pick their best card out of the game is very defensive, and it's also very offensive too. So this card serves multiple purposes. Sphere, I might. The only reason why I wanted to run one more was because of the Mechia matchup. I wish I kind of had a second Sphere against the round 8 where Frisco drew multiple hybrid defenses, and I had no way to kind of stop it. So Sphere's still there, but I think in this meta it was okay to run maybe like one Sphere. Protected 1 Rebirth. I don't know, maybe I haven't tested it with 3, or I haven't even tested it with 2. I just thought that it was kind of a defensive card in a way, and I didn't want to be too defensive in here. I wanted to be very aggro, push more damage out. And once in a while I did rejuvenate 2 stock cards, but those 2 cards, I don't have too many cards in here that shuffle, so it wasn't like I was going to draw those cards again until the end of combat, or the end of the towards the end of the game. So it was okay. It was great. It was a great card. It's just another nice backup in case something important gets banished. And then one time, still good. Energy combats. I ran 3 Supernova. I think this is one of the top 5 best name cards in the game. You raise yourself 2 anger. Damage cannot be prevented. So it's 6 life cards, but with modifiers like Lifting Drill, it could be like 7 straight. It's one of the few ways to crit back Dragon Balls. And when it's just in your discard pile, when you're in combat, you can rejuvenate it to destroy an opponent's setup or drill. This card alone is just so good. I mean, people could just see this in action. Being able to enter and kill off their black power up is huge, so that they can't just end combat or their red relaxation or their bribes and stuff. So this card really put in some work. It was one of my favorite cards in this deck, and it's just so good for board. It's one of the best cards in here. 3 Blue Neck Beam. Definitely need 3. I think because you can still pitch it for the mastery to gain 4 stages, and in this physical heavy meta, you could use all the stages that you could get. So Blue Neck Beam, it's a good way to lower your opponent down, and it's happened. It's happened in I think my round 4 match. Next, I ran 2 Blue Arm Blast. These Omni blocks, I guess you say, not really, but this is a very, very versatile card. You could play it to stop a physical, or it's a nice 5-card damage. It's standard, but it's a nice backup for blocks. 2 Blinding Blast, another card that was recommended by David Meckler. This card was great. I mean, I saw this card put in work when Timothy Bateau ran it in his Gohan build, and I like that you're able to put in any card from a discard pile to put it back on top. So oftentimes I would put in like Time or a Dominance that got shuffled in and stuff, but it's really good to use this on the last action, I guess. If your opponent has no hand, and if they enter on you, stack your best card that you can, or stack a tech card that you need. So it's versatile. It's done some work. It's a high damage output, and then the hit effect is great too. Choose 3 cards in your opponent's discard pile and banish them. It's like a dead blow in a way. So it was a good card. It was perfect at 2, I think. And then Blue Terror. No need to go over that. And then the Energy Blacks, I ran 3 Narrow Escape and 3 Blue Guard. So everybody knows what the potential that Blue Guard has, banishing from the mastery to draw a card and such. You don't get that Raise Anger effect, but still get the extra card advantage. And then, like I mentioned earlier, that level 1, pitching for the level 1, drawing 2 cards is just so good. Busted. And then 3 Narrow Escape, has 3 Endurance, and you're able to stack like Neck Beams, Blue Guards, even stuff that's been milled out, and it's a great Endurance card. It's great overall. And then onto the physicals. I ran a lot more physical cards. 3 Head Knocks. In this kind of meta, you gotta run 3 Head Knocks. It's a good damage, 2 Endurance, and it lowers your opponent's anger to 0. Many times where I knocked my opponent's anger from 5 to 0, and they just kind of shook their head. They expected it to. So especially against a blue deck, sometimes they would kind of pine out 1 to anger out because they know that in the back of their head I might have a head knock and whatnot. And having head knocks in a discard pile, that's alright. You could use it with Decapitation. 3 Blue Lunges. I might cut one out, but you know, it was really important for me to get dominance out because being able to rejuve cards early and putting a lot of pressure was really important. So if you're able to dominance early, hit with those extra actions, I think it was critical. So Blue Lunged helped every now and then, but it wasn't really a factor in too many games. You know, I wouldn't have missed it if I cut it, but maybe I might drop it as a 2-of or even a 1-of. But it's a nice physical damage output. If you're up there and if you're the stage docking, you're going to do a lot of damage. So it's a good card. MVP card of the game, Blue Decapitation. This card is just amazing. Let me read it off to you. You may banish this card from your hand as an action to banish a style physical attack from your discard pile. If you do, perform a copy of that attack. So if your opponent's angering up on you and you don't have an answer to that, you see head knock into your discard pile, play this, banish it, banish head knock, and then you can lower their anger to 0. It's just so good. It's a nice toolbox to kind of use, a toolbox card to use with Decapitation. You know, use whatever is in your discard pile, and not everybody's running discard pile hate. You know, I saw a lack of some of the discard pile hate aside from like Slumber and you know, like Cell's Power and whatnot. But yeah, being able to use your discard pile as a toolbox in a way is so valuable, and you know, it's also important to sequence your rejuvenation effects too. So sometimes you want to save and rejuvenate Blue Decapitation to later until you build up a discard pile. But yeah, this card was definitely MVP in a lot of decks, and the main, probably my favorite and most notable memory of Decapitation was against Sandeep. You know, he had 5 Dragon Balls out, and we were going towards the end of the game. Maybe I had about like 12 life cards. He had about like 6 or 7, and you know, I needed Sinister Choke to get back his Dragon Balls because I knew he was going to draw into them. And it was down to the wire, and he slumbered, and then it was back to me, and he hit me with an attack. I passed, he hit me with an attack, and the 2 last Sinister Chokes kind of showed up on my discard pile back to back. I was like, oh my god. And I was like, that was the card that I needed, and he's like, yeah, that was, you know, one of your ways out pretty much. And I was like, gosh, that's the card that I was been waiting to go. So pass, go on to me. I drop a Dominance, 3 cards in my hand, and then I blew Overpowering Drill, and I draw into Decapitation, and I'm looking through my discard pile, and I was like, wow, I have a Blue Slash in my discard pile, I have a Head Knock in my discard pile, and Blue Slide in my discard pile. I can do a lot of damage. So I give a life deck count. He says I think about 6 or 7, and then I'm down to like 9, 10, so it's down to the wire. And you know, I noticed that combo in my head because it's one of the best combos in the game, I think, for Blue. So I saw Blue Slash in there, and I'm just like, well, his anger's at 0, and if this is unstoppable, I'm going to be milling him for you know, 6. So I knew there was 2 Dragon Balls left in his deck, and he had about 6 cards in there. So I entered with a 3-card hand. I play Decapitation, banish it, go into my discard pile, search for Blue Slash, banish it, and then play Blue Slash. So basically it mills 1, and then it damages 1, and then it mills 6 minus X. X is their anger level, so he had 0 anger, so he milled 6, and that was pretty much game from there. And that was a clutch Decapitation, Overpowering Drill / combo, and that's probably one of my favorite combos with this card. I mean, anything with a hit effect, you know, being able to slash them. If I had Lifting Drill out, you know, that's a potentially 7-card swing. It's a great card, and I definitely recommend 3 of them because it just gives you more of a What's going on, everybody? Sorry about that. My last video got cut off. I don't know why, I don't know how, but we're just gonna jump straight back into the deck profile. So like I was describing before, Blue Decapitation is an amazing card, probably my MVP card, and I definitely recommend running 2 to 3 if you can, because there's so many combos in here. Like I mentioned before, Blue has a lot of lacks the ability to crit, so I teched in 3 Sinister Chokes for the ability to crit away Dragon Balls. You know, outside of stuff like Blue Fear and you know, Blue Belly Bash, you know, those are cards that don't really complement well with this aggro version of the deck. So Sinister Choke I think was good. gave me the opportunity to steal Dragon Balls, kill allies, and it was a big factor in putting pressure against those kind of decks. Also, like I mentioned before, Blue Betrayal was something that I might have added, just because there are times where your opponent draws, amazing, especially against like board heavy decks like Roshi. There are games where people drop like 2 setups and then pass, and then drew another 2 setups and then pass. So it was really easy for them to kind of have a board state, and you want to get rid of those key cards, banish red bribes and power-ups and searching techniques. So bumping it up to 3 I don't think is a bad idea, even though you have stuff like Supernova. Another great card for this deck was Blue Slash. Blue Slash is one of my other favorite cards that Blue offers. The ability to do some damage and also possibly milling them 6 is incredibly powerful. And again, like I said, this is the card that helped me win against Sundeep in round 7. Blue Decapitation plus Blue Overpowering Drill to make this copied attack of Blue Slash unstoppable, and just it's a good combination. And even in a deck like this where Cooler's level 2 is a physical attack, your opponent's not going to have so many physical blocks that you're more likely to hit this towards the end of the combat, which is nice. So Blue Slash, good card. I played 2 Blue Round Throw. It worked well. It was great as an Omni block, but also not an Omni block. It was great as a energy block, but most of the decks that I faced had a lot of physicals, so I use this more as a physical beat kind of card, and it's great. Does stage damage and also lowers my opponent's anger 1. Another good card was Blue Takedown. Takedown was amazing. Being able to deal 4 stages after lowering your opponent down, stage locking them again is just really powerful. There are many times where I lowered my opponent's MP down a level almost every other game with Blue Takedown. Next card that actually overperformed was Blue Slide. This is a card recommended by David, and it was a card that I did get some experience in within when the set released, but overall, just thinking about it over and over again, it's a very solid choice. Banishes the top 3 cards of your opponent's discard pile, which is nice because after they use a time, you could banish it after this, or like a black command that's discarded from damage. That's great too. Hit effect is a nice bonus. Your opponent cannot play non-style cards this combat. It's great against Android 13 with all their non-combat cards, or non-style cards. It's just a very good card overall, and it helped me push damage because my opponent sometimes would be low stages, and Cooler, reaching the D to E levels, is level 2. It's easy to push out 8, 9 life cards of damage, so it's a good card to potentially crit off your opponent. And then last are my Blue Crouches. Very good physical block. I think it's one of the better ones for this kind of deck and this kind of meta, where your opponent is going to stage lock you. Stuff like Brawly at 13 and maybe other cooler decks. You're going to get beaten and lowered to stages, especially when I don't have allies to kind of soak up the damage. Blue Crouch will net you the ability to put this back up top on your deck, and then with cards like Blue Crouch, being able to draw it up again as level 1 power, or Cooler's level 2 power to, his hit effect to draw a card, to discard a card to draw a card. Drawing to another physical block against physical meta decks is great. And even if you're not able to do that, put it back to the top, use it as endurance, and it does have a nice endurance on it, so I thought it was great. So yeah, that's my deck. Hope you guys liked that. There are a couple cards that I actually would consider. If you do planning on running this build, it's maybe a little bit different than a couple other builds out there, because mine's less reliant on allies and more in combat. But there are a couple cards. Like I mentioned earlier, I'd probably definitely bump Blue Overpowering Drill up to 1. one more, copying, all those good copy attacks. You could even run copy cards that help with the theme, you know, stuff like blue Swift block. Granted, you'll be discarding card from your hand, but you can get card advantage with stuff like the blue guard combo, or if you play card like blue head kick, which David originally had for his build of blue cooler. Has 2 endurance, it draws a card, so basically you get to stack certain cards and kind of draw out of it. Just use it for card advantage, you know, for that extra card. Or even stuff like blue leverage that could get off some at you, an extra card in your hand. But blue doesn't have a lot of card advantage, but you know, it's nice for the ability to kind of copy and have a nice strong attack overall. I did mention another betrayal, so that's always up for grabs. If you're comfortable with running, you know, 3 betrayals, if you want a more passive build, I definitely recommend betrayal. But in an aggro build like this, you know, you still need to get rid of board presence, and betrayal is one of the best cards that blue has. Also another blue slash that's also up in the air. You could always add a 3rd one just for more targets in your discard pile, or just to use it. I also mentioned that blue, again, has difficult ways to crit or capture Dragon Balls, so I think Optic Blast is another good alternative for cards that could help in this kind of build. It's 2 endurance, 6 life cards, and that really helps push this type of aggro theme out there. It could potentially get you, you know, 2 Dragon Balls and stuff, so it's a good card. I think it'd be a great addition to the deck. And yeah, Blue Slide, like I mentioned, a card that really worked for me. It did a lot of damage for me, and I think it's something worth considering if you want to run it. And even like other staple cards like Stare Down, you know, 3rd Stare Down doesn't hurt. It's a good card to get rid of their blocks, you know, so you could Supernova for unpreventable damage, or you could Sinister Choke for unpreventable damage, or you could get all those hit effects like Blue Slash and blue, what am I think about? Yeah, blue slash, blue slide, all that stuff to hit. So I like it, and might use another 3rd Sinister Choke. I mean 3rd Stare Down. But yeah, that's my deck. Hope you guys liked it. Shoutouts to everybody I met at Gen Con, all the new people and the familiar faces. It was really nice seeing the old school Naruto crew. You know, this game right here that really pushed me to be a competitive player. And shoutouts to my play group out there who helped me test at Extreme Games, Pink Bunny, and Coliseum. People that I traveled with, and you know, it was an amazing time, good experience, and I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Please comment, rate, and subscribe, and stay tuned for other videos like this. I do like putting more content out for the community to kind of see and help you know, grow within these kind of like videos, you know, deck profiles and stuff. That's what I enjoy doing. I always appreciate feedback from you guys, constructive for criticism, anything that'll help me better or make the deck better is something I always consider and do listen to. So thank you guys. I know it's a long video, but I appreciate you guys for listening, and yeah, I guess hope you guys like it, and you know, hopefully I'll be able to make it out to Michigan for maybe my last regional this season. So thanks, and I will catch you all later, YouTube. Peace out.